Hi, it's Steve with Coin Stuff I Like, bringing you part three in the series that I'm doing on the Peace Dollar, both U.S. Mint and Moonlight Mint issues. And in this video, I'll be covering U.S. Mint issues between 1922 and 1924. You've seen this. This essentially covers the issues from 1917 date to 1970 date. There's another one I have for the more modern 2021 to current dates, but I've updated this one to include key dates in the U.S. Mint series, and they have the little black outline around the boxes, and we'll cover our second quote unquote key date or semi key date, whichever way you want to look at it, because some people might say that the 28P and the 34S are the true key dates. But in any case, I have updated this particular slide to include those. And so this one will cover 1922 through 1924 and cover our second quote unquote key date in the series. Um, just a little highlight review. I've presented this in the part one and went into more detail. But in this part three, we're going to be covering 22 through 24, which all fall into this low relief. It's the relief they went to when they were having problems with striking up coins and dies and so forth in early 2022. So they redesigned it to this low relief design. It still has the Arabic numerals. The design appears the same, except that it's lower relief. And on the reverse, same thing, low relief. You can usually tell this from looking at a coin by looking at these rays below one. There's three rays below one. The exception is there are three VAM die varieties in the 1935S that have four rays. So those are the exception. There's still low relief. That's the exception. The ones we'll be talking about today all have low relief design with the three rays below one on the reverse. However, in 1922, early on when they had the reverse design, they had the reverse B1 or the low relief type, first type. And basically what you see here is the lack of a third mountaintop, as you see here in the second version of the low relief in 22. And then also here, the olive branches, they say it's detached versus attached over here. So it's a little bit shortened olive branch right here, not going all the way to the talon versus the slightly revised version 2 of the low relief in 1922, which extends here. After 22, all the low reliefs were a B2 type of reverse. All right, so difference is the lack of a third mountaintop. Also, notice how the rays sort of conform to that third mountaintop where the rays come down all the way here on the first type. And then also the differences in the olive branch to talon contact. All right, so these were low relief, and just to reference, we go up here to this box here on the left. The obverse is 16 1,000ths of an inch in relief depth, and the reverse is 14th 1,000th. By comparison, this is what 1921 high relief had. So they lowered the relief by 1/1000th of an inch on the reverse and nearly in half on the obverse for these 22 through 35 reverses. All right, so that aside, let's look at some of the ones from my collection and go into a little bit more detail in each of the years. So the 1922 piece dollar, I have an MS63 example. This is the most common, the easiest to find. They minted over 51 million of these in 1922, which is the little trivia here. It is the highest mintage of a silver dollar of any U.S. mint before and after 1922. So it's the highest. Now, there are copper nickel Ike dollars that were minted in 300 million, way above 51 million, but they're copper nickel. So silver dollars in the history of the U.S. Mint, this is the highest minted silver dollar. That's the 1922 production out of Philadelphia. They're catching up with that Pittman Act in getting silver dollars back in circulation. So this was a big jump. This was a jump from just over 1 million in 1921 of the peace dollars. All right, so just over 1 million. But remember, the 1921 peace dollars were struck in the very end of December of 1921. So the big jump in the production. Now, you may ask, okay, well, they only had the end of December here for production for 1921. Is that the lowest mintage of any peace dollar? No, there were lower mintages in 1927, 1927S, 1928, 1934. That's why those are semi-key dates. They're all lower mintage than even the 1921. All right, so of the 51 million plus that were minted, they estimate that there's about 10 million that survive today in any grade, and 2.5 million that are MS60 or higher. All right, so not hard to find, and as I said before in part 2, and even in part 1, I mentioned I've never looked at all of my peace dollars for VAMs. This is with this series I'm looking at, and so this one here, I looked at it, and this is a VAM 27, a 1922 VAM 27. It has a really nice die crack across the neck here, the base of the neck, extending off into the field and up through the T and trust. And it has tripling. If you look over here, there's doubling over here. So that constitutes a VAM 27. Now, if it had a little die chip here, right there in this die crack, if there's a substantial little die chip, that would make it a VAM 27B. This is not a VAM 27B, does not have that die chip, the necessary die chip, but it has all the other markers. It's a VAM 27. This is a B2 reverse. This is the one with the 3 mountaintops down in the bottom. And then there's the 22D. The 22D, this is the highest mintage, 15 million plus, of the peace dollar series for the Denver Mint. So the Denver Mint, did subsequent mintings of peace dollars, but this was the highest in 1922 at the Denver Mint. Now, this is the second silver dollar minted at the Denver Mint. The first silver dollar minted at the Denver Mint was the 1921 D. Morgan. Denver didn't mint peace dollars in 1921. They did mint Morgans, and actually had a higher mint. They had over 20 million Morgan dollars in 1921 at the Denver Mint. So this was the second highest mintage of a silver dollar at the Denver Mint, but it is the highest mintage of a peace dollar at the Denver Mint. There's about 3 million of these are estimated to survive in all grades, and 100,000 estimated to survive in 60 or higher. This is an MS62, and deservedly so if you look at those images. Again, I flipped this one over, and yes, this is the second top 50 VAM that I've discovered that's been sitting in my box in the collection, and I didn't know. So this is another one that I'll probably send back to Annex and get it attributed with the VAM Top 50 VAM 7B on the label. VAM 7B is a B2 reverse, so it has the 3 mountaintops on the bottom right of the eagle's talons. But it has some characteristics. It has this little die gouge through the tiara or diadem. So it has this characteristic die gouge. It has some pretty wild cracks. This crack goes from rim all the way down through the N and on. Plus, it has tripling. If you look here in these olive branch leaves, you can see tripling here. You can see tripling here. So it has tripling on the reverse. It has that die gouge in the tiara, some die cracks. And then it also has what's called the shoulder spike. So it's a clash. And actually, if you look over here, there's the other part of the clash. So if you think upside down or inverted, this is the back of Liberty's neck. And this is the front of Liberty's neck coming up with the jaw over here off screen. So this is the bend of the neck and jaw. And you can see also why sometimes if you're looking at the obverse, you'll see a little spike at that bend of the neck and jaw. You'll see a little spike there, which is a clash on the obverse. So pretty cool one. I'm really happy I'm looking at these things with this series because now I've got my second top 50 VAM. The first one being the 1921 top 50 VAM. So on to the 1922S. They minted over 17 million of these. It was the second highest mintage of peace dollars at the San Francisco Mint, the second highest. All right. 2 million are estimated to survive in all grades. 45,000 estimated to survive in 60 plus. This is a 62, and again, you can see clearly it's a 62 and no higher. When you flip this one or look at this one under loops, and I always look for VAMs under loops because I can wobble the coin. I don't look for VAMs under a scope because the light is constant. I rather have a loop and a fixed light source and just wobble and look with a loop. In any case, this one was it is sort of like it's a little baffling because they used to be a 1P. They've gotten away with that one. Now there's VAM 1E1 and 1E2. But VAM 1E1 and 1E2, they have these die scratches or die file lines, basically, from when they did some die abrasion work on the obverse. But on the reverse, the VAM 1E1 and 1E2 is supposed to have a triple shoulder spike. Well, this one doesn't have any clashing on the reverse. It's a pretty early die state on the reverse. So I wonder if there is, if the obverse was repaired with, or a new die marriage with a different reverse. And so we have the 1E1 and 1E2 both have these die lines, die scratches, same identical ones, but they have that triple shoulder spike clash. This one does not. So can't really assign it to anything on the online list, and maybe they have something new in terms of a new die marriage, but I wasn't able to discern that. So there you have for the 1922 S. Now, one other thing, when I was looking at under the loops, I noticed this. And I think this has to be some machine doubling, although there's no machine doubling on any other devices on the reverse. And it has some funky little remnants here. So in my mind, I question, is this possibly an RPM? And there are no RPMs listed for 1922S. I've seen a couple of message board postings of 1922S and funky pictures, and people go, "Oh, that's machine doubling." Well, very likely it is, but hey, there's some other elements here that make this mint mark very funky. And let me put it this way: I'm gonna call it machine doubling at this point, but I'm gonna be watching over time to see if anybody actually attributes a 1922 S RPM, if that's ever a thing. So you look at this, it's enough to raise a question mark. That's the 1922 S. 1923, you have the second highest mintage from Philadelphia Mint. Over 30 million were minted, and estimated survivals 9 million. 3,500,000 in 60 plus. This is a 64. It's one of the nicer looking piece dollars in my collection. And as I said, I didn't want to go registry. I wanted to get a full collection to complement my Dan Carr pieces, and that's about it. So, but this is a nicer looking coin. Now, little fun fact about the 1923 issues, not just 23 Philadelphia, but Denver and San Francisco. Because of so many being minted in 1922, the 23s essentially went from the mint to bank vaults. It went to vaults. And so initially, back in the day, these were considered rare. People were going, "Oh, these are very rare. They're hard to find." Well, because they're all sitting in bank vaults, and over time, most of those have been released from bank vault hoards, and we know that this is not rare at all. If I look at the reverse, it has a great die crack that starts here and then jumps up over here. Also, some die cracks in here, either die scratches or die cracks. I think they're cracks. Regardless, I couldn't find definitive markers that allowed me to call it a VAM. It could be VAM 1DD, VAM 5, who knows? But I'll just, it's not a top 50. But it is cool, and I wanted to show you those. It has with those die cracks. So that's what I have for the 23. The 23D, Denver, mintage was almost 7 million. They estimate about 750,000 survive, 30,000 in 60 or higher. This is a 62 once again, and you can sort of see he has those 62 characteristics here. Um, this one is a VAM 1Y, a 1923D VAM 1Y. It has some really cool die cracks. It has a die crack that starts here at L and runs close to the rim. You can actually see some beveling near the rim. And it runs down through the end on over here under God, as you see here. Then it jumps and there it continues on up into the neck and bust or the neck bust area. So that's one marker. Then it has a die crack up here at the Y, sort of a slingshot Y that extends up over to the rim area, and from the strand of hair up towards the Y. It has, I think this is a die scratch, but it could be a die crack. I mean, it looks too smooth to be a die crack. So, but it does intersect with that die crack that we mentioned before here. I'm going to jump back. So that is pretty clearly that's a VAM 1Y. In 1923, San Francisco, they had 19 million, over 19 million were minted. This is the highest mintage of the series from the San Francisco mint. The second highest was 22S. This is the highest. They estimate 2 million survive and 40,000 in 60 plus. And this is another 62, although it's a nicer looking 62. And if you look at this right away, you see there's a little feature down here. It looks like a clash up here. You can actually see a little bit of liberties here, and a lot of die file area. There's field bending right here. All right. So, and then also some clashing extending up here. All right. So we look at it under the scope. That and this shoulder spike here makes it a VAM 1U. It also has a nice die file and field bending here in front of the hair and the forehead, but has a really nice die crack extending this way, a little one across B, down here to the E, and then other evidence of clashing like you see here. Remember that on the reverse, remember there's a couple of rays here, and there's the clash on the other side. So VAM 1U for a 1923S. This is not one that I'm going to send in to have attributed. It's not a top 50, so but it's still cool, and I'm glad I'm looking at these things. 24 from Philadelphia, 1924. They minted 11, close to 12 million, just under 11 million. 3,600,000 survived in any grade, 600,000 in MS 60 or higher. So it's a pretty common date. I've got an MS 63, and this one here, I couldn't find a distinct VAM. It had no distinct die markers that allowed me to find which VAM it was. It does have some pitting in various areas, die pitting, but I couldn't pin this down to a distinct VAM. So no close-ups, not necessary. And the last one in this video, part 3, it will be a 2024S. And this is the second of the key dates or semi-key dates on my list. They minted 1.7 million, just over 1.7 million of these in San Francisco. And the estimated survival is only 60,000. and estimated survival at 60 plus is 17,500. This makes it one of the least common that you'll find in 60 plus. And if you bump that to 65 plus, there's only an estimated 175 of these around. All right, so this is a semi-key date, and they're harder to find. This is an MS62 example, and it is a VAM 1P. It's a 1924S VAM 1P. So you can identify the markers here is that there's a lot of diabrasion work that's done between the hair and the cap, such that this little space here is almost at the same level as the field. It's abraded. And then it's also clash. You can see the clash here and the clash here on the forehead, just in front of the eyebrow. So this is a VAM 1P. Thank you for watching. This is 22 through 24. I have my second top 50 VAM that I found in this video, and we went through the second key date, so to speak. And you can see as we go on, the San Francisco Mint starts having some very low mintages and a lot of key dates moving forward. We'll probably cover this period from 25 through 28 in the next video. Stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. It's been a lot of fun presenting you the information, but also giving me the opportunity to look for VAMs and share those with you. We'll catch you next time. Remember, buy stuff you like, but be smart about what you buy. Bye-bye.